She stood there, phone in hand, red in the face, like she'd just caught an intruder ransacking her mansion. But the only thing I was stealing was a peaceful morning, coffee in hand, barefoot on my own porch. I didn't even blink when she shouted, "You're trespassing." Yeah, that happened. Karen Whitmore, HOA president, self-declared protector of community standards, had no idea who she was dealing with. She saw a man in flannel and assumed he didn't belong. What she didn't see was that I wasn't just staying in that lakeside cabin. I owned the land under her house, and about 70% of the town around it. Let's rewind. My name's Isaiah Mitchell, 59, born and raised in rural Georgia. My mama ran the local bait shop by Carter's Lake. We didn't have much, but we had peace and dignity. When she passed, I left, went north, worked in construction, flipped properties, learned how power worked, not the kind with titles, but the kind buried in deeds, documents, and land surveys. 30 years later, I came back, not for revenge, just for quiet. I bought a near-abandoned mountain town, mostly through shell companies. 83% of the properties, including cabins, roads, trails, and lakeside lots. I poured money into it quietly, restored the library, fixed the storm drains, paid off the school's overdue electric bill. I even funded EMT training for the volunteer fire department. But I didn't want credit. I just wanted to sit on my mama's porch again and hear the frogs at night. Then, Karen moved in from Arizona with a clipboard and a God complex. First, it was letters, then compliance warnings. She said my cabin deck was too close to the lake. Then she claimed my dog. Rufus, a 12-year-old rescue with bad knees, didn't have HOA clearance. Rufus barely barked, but she did. Loud, constant, and with increasing aggression. She held meetings without notice, passed rules without quorums, and posted signs like this was a gated resort, not a dying town someone had saved from vanishing. And she wasn't subtle about her problem with me. Not once did she ask my name. Just called me the man in the woods, made up stories to others, said I was off-grid, dangerous, even suspicious. The others, some stayed quiet. I don't blame them. It's hard to stand up when the person with the mic threatens fines, reports, and community shaming. I remember Don, a soft-spoken man who ran the church pantry. He tried once to speak up. "I think Isaiah's just trying to live in peace," he said. Karen glared at him like he'd cursed her mother. He lowered his eyes, hands clasped. Didn't speak again that day. I saw that. I felt that. Then one morning she came storming down the trail again and barked, "You've been warned. You've ignored all notices. Leave now or I'll call the police." I didn't argue. Just said, "Do what you gotta do." She did. When the cruiser pulled up, dust cloud, and all I recognized the officer, Deputy Reynolds. I'd paid for the radios in that cruiser. He stepped out, looked at me, looked at her, and tried not to laugh. "Ma'am," he said, flipping open the folder I handed him. "Mr. Mitchell here owns this cabin, and about half this town, including the road you just used to get here." Karen froze. "You can't be serious," she stammered. "I suggest you verify it with the county records," he said, already turning to leave. She didn't apologize, just stormed off, shouting something about illegitimate transfers and HOA expansion votes. And I thought that was the end. I was wrong. 2 days later, I got a notice taped to my cabin: emergency HOA vote proposal to expand jurisdiction to lakeside properties. She wanted control of the land, of me. I showed up at the meeting. It wasn't a hall, it was a war zone. A war. Fold-out chairs, bitter coffee, eyes filled with judgment. Karen stood at the front like a preacher at a Sunday revival. "Mr. Mitchell is welcome here," she said sweetly. "But no one is above the community. I didn't sit, just stood at the back, silent. Then Mr. Alvarez, old school, former welder, barely spoke in public, raised his hand. If he owns the land. What gives us the right to control him? Karen snapped. He lives adjacent to the HOA. We have legal grounds to absorb his area under shared interest policies. And the crowd, they nodded. People I'd helped without them ever knowing it. But they didn't see the man. They saw the skin, the clothes, the independence. And that scared them. So when the vote happened, it was close. Too close. A few raised hands slowly. Some didn't. One woman whispered, "This is too much." The motion failed, but barely. Karen smiled like she'd won anyway. "We'll revise. We'll try again," she said. She turned to me. "You're not the king of this town." And I just said, "I'm not trying to be." But something in her snapped that day. A week later, I saw construction trucks near the trail that ran beside my cabin. That trail led to my solar shed, the utility lines, and my boat dock. She was building a community walkway, funded by HOA development fees. Except it wasn't just a walkway. It was a blockade. I called Martha, my attorney, former state prosecutor turned private land defender. She's poking a bear. She said, "Let's wake up the forest." Within 72 hours, the Georgia Department of Environmental Protection showed up with 4 trucks, 2 lawyers, and a man named Jerry who looked like he ate land disputes for breakfast. He shut the site down within minutes, cited a decades-old wetland protection clause buried in a survey from 1984. The workers left. Karen stood there alone, red in the face, dust on her knees. "This is harassment," she hissed. "No," I said, "this is consequence." But it wasn't over. 2 days later, a summons arrived. Karen was suing the HOA itself for wrongful removal, defamation, and emotional sabotage. She wanted $300,000. She filed it in federal court. The community was stunned. Martha flew in. We gathered affidavits, filed ethics complaints. I went door to door again, not to fight, but to explain, to listen. People began to see the fines, the threats, the coldness, and the truth. By the time court rolled around, Karen stood in pearls and a pink suit, crying about being bullied by a rogue element. The judge let her talk. Then it was our turn. Martha opened the binder. She laid out the budget discrepancies, fake vendor contracts, and the trail land purchase made in her cousin's name. At the end, the judge said only this case dismissed. Investigation recommended. Karen gasped. 3 weeks later, she vanished. No farewell, no ceremony. Just gone. We renamed the trail. Carter's Path to Peace. The lake stayed quiet. The frogs sang again. But the questions didn't stop. Because just last week, the new board found a second account one Karen had hidden, used for undisclosed legal defense funds. Her name was all over it. Now the town faces a new decision: sue for restitution or let it go. And me, I just sit on the porch again, Rufus at my feet, watching the mist rise off the lake. But some mornings, I wonder, what would have happened if I didn't have the money? The papers, the patience. What would have happened if I looked different? You tell me. Who was right? Who was wrong? Leave a comment below. And if you believe in justice, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story.